Okay, so today, the 18th of January 2022, we talked about John Nash, who was born on the 18th of January in the 18th century, and now born on the same day, but in the 20th century, Philippe Starck. And let's read a little bit about him and let's contemplate some of his works. So Philippe Starck was born, as you see, the 18th of January 1949. He's a French industrial architect and designer known for his wide range of designs, including interior design, architecture, household objects, furniture, boats, and other vehicles. It amuses me, this ending, you know, and other vehicles. What other vehicles could there be? Well, cars and who knows what, bicycles. Anyway, we are going to see some of these things. So again, he was born today in 1949. So he is 73 years old. Let's wish him happy birthday. It's not necessary to wish him success because he had plenty. I like him in this picture. Well, you don't see the whole of it yet, but here he is. In this picture, I like him because he almost seems to be a little troubled and even a little bit sad with some suffering within, which I like. Apparently, his father inspired him. His father was an engineer. I read on Wikipedia that from his father had this belief that innovation, to invent, inventions are almost a duty. So I guess this became an impulse for him too, because this is a man notorious for his inventing again. But I think there is a difference between creation and invention, at least in art. You know, genuine creation is more than an invention, but invention is necessary. It is good. Let's see. Again, I like him in this picture. In fact, I like him very much in this picture. Unfortunately, in other pictures, for reasons which I will explain later, less so. Anyway, this is another picture here. I mean, this man had a huge success, and you know, it's difficult to remain pure when an avalanche of success comes upon you. He became a very mundane figure, you know, a public media figure, a media legend. He's called a legend. We are talking about a legend. So let's wish happy birthday to a French and international legend. Now look at this picture. What man wouldn't like to receive the affection of a woman as he does in this picture? My God, my God. It's really very, very difficult not to be envious. But look at the expression on his face, you know. It is as if he says, yeah, it looks nice, I'm sure, it's beautiful, it's suave. But maybe the French are right, and the French do know something about love, or at least this is how the saying goes. And in French, in France, there is this saying, il n'y a pas d'amour heureux, there is no happy love. So I have the feeling that his face has something of an insinuation that things are not as suave always as they might appear in this picture. She is much more poetical and less lucid than, or so she appears. And I guess she's his wife, because I will show another picture of the two of them, a very different picture. And in fact, that picture contributed a little bit to my getting a little bit tired of adding up works by Philippe Starck. Anyway, let's move forward. Here he is with an inquisitive look. I think this man knows something about, you know, the trappings of success. I think he's aware, and yet I think he cannot stay away from. And it's probably difficult because the seductiveness of so much success and being, you know, in the public eye and receiving lots of commissions and making lots of money. I mean, this man built interiors for the most famous hotels and the most expensive in the world. Although I read that he was interested to produce a democratic design. Well, I'm not so sure, most people can afford to buy his, design pieces, the ones that he designed. So in my opinion, Philippe Starck is a man with a certain complexity who gave in maybe a little more than would have been wise or advisable to what we call success. Here is another picture of him with a I don't know exactly what this object in. Maybe it's one of his inventions. I like the fact that he sports these shirts with a hood, kind of like Robin Hood, but we shouldn't be fooled by it, because there is a difference between someone like Robin Hood or even Eminem, although in terms of success they are similar. Here he's, I don't know, is it about the fetishization of his invention? I think he's aware that we shouldn't take him too seriously. But I don't know if he's aware of the fact that if he was a little bit more serious, he probably would have been a better artist. Let's look at some of his drawings. There are books published with his drawings, even with his secret drawings. In fact, the last image of this short presentation on him is with the cover of a book about the secret drawings of Philippe Starck. Is this a chair? It could be. It could become a chair. Rather, maybe a bit uncomfortable and not very stable. Otherwise, what can we say? He certainly doesn't draw like Michelangelo or Bernini. No, it's a different kind, appropriate for our time. We don't have great artistic ambitions, although he is a very ambitious man, but with a whimsicality that makes him sometimes dangerously close to the abyss of frivolousness. He would probably protest, although I think deep down he knows it, because I think he's clever enough to know it. Do you see the words in the left corner, only me, and the short two letters word me is presented with more emphasis. I think it says something about him. But he's also self-derogatory, because what do we see there? It's a ghost. No, it's a ghost. Maybe he's aware. I imagine he is. I think he has the intelligence to be aware that everything is passing, including the Egyptian pyramids. The Spirit of America by Emeko, and for you, Greg, your friend Starck. Is he sarcastic? Maybe a little bit, if he calls this swinging chair, the Spirit of America. Is it a great drawing? No, I wouldn't say so. But it's meant as a, rather as a cartoon. This one, though, is a so-called an artwork, and the reflections of what we see here made it into architecture, into a building he built for a brewery in Japan. We are going to see that work. But here he is with a bicycle he invented, and I think these are the officials of the great, industrial power called Peugeot. I don't know. I like bicycles. I don't know what to think about this bicycle. It's probably, I kind of understand why he promoted it and designed it, and in fact, the reason is shown here, that you can use it as a trottinette, or I don't know how it is called in English. But I don't know. It's something about it that turns me off. And it's possible that its price would have turned me off as well. But we appreciate, you know, the coordination of color, the color of his scarf, and the color of the, you know, of the tubes of the wheel. Anyway, of the wheels. Yeah, a bicycle by. I don't show a lot of designs by him. This would have been an overwhelming presentation. Maybe I should have, but as I confessed in a rather humble way, I got tired at one moment of the brilliance of Philippe Starck. Here he is drawing. Andreo, it's written there. Another chair. Did he try to commit suicide? No, I don't want to be morbid, but what is this thing on his arm? No, he had no reasons. I mean, this man had a huge success. Although if we see him in this picture, you might say that the dark side of Philippe Starck was always there somehow. Like, look at him. You know, he photographed himself, and he's probably a well, I don't know. I wouldn't be so sure, but I think he's a seducer in the sense of he knows how to present himself to the public in appetizing ways, in interesting ways, and you know, I guess so. Everything you see on the left are gadgets or you know, objects that he designed. You know, most of them, I would say, one can live very well without. But you know, the inventor, the simpatico inventor, who is hanging himself there, staring at us with a, you know, with a funny look, probably would have thought differently. Now we look at this building, and we already saw that artwork where I said this made it into architecture. This was from 1989 for a brewery in Tokyo, in Japan. And look at this. He made this black building with this golden thing, which I don't know what it is. I couldn't find pictures with the interior of this building. But he built a black building and the golden thing on top. What is that golden thing on top? Maybe it's just a, you know, a kind of a sculpture. But it's huge, as you can see. We are seeing here, you know, big buildings in Tokyo, and this is the contribution of Philippe Starck. We are going to see another building built in Tokyo by Philippe Starck. It's interesting in a way. He brings surrealism into architecture. Is he an architect? Not totally, but it depends. We can talk. What is architecture? What is an architect? He's a designer who was also fortunate to be commissioned to build buildings sometimes. And you'll see, he could be extravagant. Mainly, he's a designer. Should there be a difference between an architect and a designer? If there is one, I would say the designer designs objects, while the architect designs buildings, and the building should always be more than an object. Although there are many architects in the present who do use the word object when they refer to a building. And I am including here Rem Koolhaas and others. They use the word object, but in my opinion, and there are other architects who consider that a building is more than an object. And so let's see. And you can see even in this built work that he does have this conception. I mean, this thing could have been very small on a table as an object. Well, it's very big or big. Probably if these are floors, you know, it has a number of floors. It has an urban scale. It's still an object. Now the past houses, here is something different. It's they are prefabricated houses. I don't know if he built more. I found the next visual material with the title houses, but I only saw one house. It's a house that he designed, kind of an experimental house, a prefabricated house. I don't know what the initials stand for, because I don't see the S. Maybe, you know, I could have taken P as coming from Philippe, his first name, but I don't see the S. So I don't know what they mean, those initials. This is the building, the past house. I don't know very well what to say about it. You know, it's a lot of glass. I don't see too many. Maybe these are moving, you know, and you can open, so they are kind of in between a window and the door. But the topping is a little bit, I would say, unnecessarily flamboyant. You know, I don't know. But I see him actually in this building. Almost I see his face. It's him. It's indeed by Philippe Starck. The interior is fine, of course, and the setting is fine in a forest. It's probably very pleasant to live in, and some, you know, old chairs of solid wood having nothing to do with idiosyncratic designers of the present. It's a pleasant interior, and a pleasant, I guess, a pleasant building to live in. We are going to see a very eccentric building he built in the Montpellier, the south of France. Here, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Although he claimed that he wants to do democratic, you know, a democratic architecture and a democratic design. In my opinion, this building is not so democratic. It doesn't seem to me that this building is affordable to anyone. I will go back to. I just wanted to. This is a building that is not made really for everyone. No, I wouldn't call it so. Plus, with so much glass all around it, you need space around it. Well, who can afford, you know, such a large piece of land? And now let's go back to some details. You know, I understand that this functions as some kind of a, you know, large pot on which he planted green, as the fashion is now. But there are all kinds of things here that, you know, these things extend. This is I imagine it's an expensive house. I can't imagine it being something similar to social housing done at the 20th century, you know, prefabricated houses. It's just, yeah, kind of a spoiled building. A spoiled building that also spoils those who live in. Is this the refrigerator, the built-in refrigerator? Now, how many people afford such a built-in huge refrigerator? I don't think too many, you know, or yeah, not too many. It's a showpiece by Philippe Starck, and yeah, he built it. Again, I don't think this crown, this emphatic crown of the building is, you know, justified for this kind of. It's just too, my opinion, too flamboyant, too big. But it's also a question of taste, I guess. And also, it seems to be a little heavy. Now, if there was a swimming pool, maybe this height would have been somehow justified, although it's not quite enough for someone who really wants to swim in a swimming pool. But anyway, it's a little bit idiosyncratic or strange, I think, the design. Now, the Nani It's actually not a hotel. I was supposed to correct. In fact, it might be, but I couldn't find out what its function is. Maybe it's just a building, a house, maybe. It's an interesting building. He claimed, and I'm going to show a quotation from him, the way he wants to instill in the building a soul. Here he is, Nani. Interesting also its name. It's Tokyo. It's a construction. It's the biomorphic scenario. It's the question, inanimate objects. Do you have a soul or soul? It's how to breathe life into a building, making it animal dynamic. Now, I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to say that animals do not have a soul, because I do not know. They might or they might not. But my conception about when I hear the word soul is I wouldn't immediately invoke the animals. He does. The building is kind of dynamic and organic and rather interesting. His idea to animate inanimate object is a good one. But again, he talks as a designer. He talks about inanimate objects. A true building is not an object, it's more than an object. Wang Shu, the Pritzker Prize winner from China, said it very clearly. A building is not an object. But as I said, Rem Koolhaas and others do employ the word object, and many students of architecture and professors and other architects do use the word object when they talk about a building. But Wang Shu says it clearly, it's not an object. And I am on his side. I also think a building is more than an object. It might have objective elements, so-called objective, but it's not an object. It's more than an object. But this building by Philippe Starck, I think, escapes the determinism and the stiffness and the inanimate attribute of an object. I think it's an interesting building. I think it's a valid building. I don't know what it is really. Maybe it's a small company there or something. I see some kind of a store or office at the bottom. But in terms of its architecture, I think it's a building one should not be ashamed of. And the Japanese built it. Philippe Starck. It's more interesting than most of the buildings built by John Nash. Let's put it in this way. And I like this fact that the windows are kind of immersed into the wholeness of the walls or roofs. So, they are part of the skin of the animal, so to speak, except here, yes, where there are distinctly, windows. Nani, Philippe Starck, Tokyo. Here it is a model of this. Here it is rather an object, an architectural object. And now we arrive at something very different. The sky dome for le nuage, the cloud. Nuage is cloud in French. And this is a hybrid building with an invention. This is the building, it has a double skin. This is plastic. And I read, but I was too tired to absorb, to digest all the technical information about how this function with the dehumanizer. No, I'm not sure. It's not dehumanizer. You understand? The dehumidificator. It's all thought out. So you don't need to have windows open. I see there are some things here, but otherwise I have a picture where the second skin is actually opening or could be open towards the interstitial space between the two layers of the facade. It's a building which has a health club, even I think a health clinic or something. It has various functions. And I read very, positive things about it before it was built. People were very excited that this is a one of a kind and it's revolutionary and all the rest. But it looks more revolutionary in the rendering here than in reality. In reality, it's like this. It's kind of deterministic and I would say rather cold. Yes, it is different, but is it enough for a building to just be different? Yes, it is designed, clearly, it's designed. You can tell a designer here designed everything, but it's still, in my opinion, rather like an object. At night, yes, because of the colors, might look a little bit interesting, but not alarmingly interesting, in my opinion. But anyway, I read these were words associated with this building. Philippe Starck designs phantasmagoric. No, sorry, this is about other proposal in 2018. I don't know if it was built, a hotel from Hilton, for Hilton, where he proposes, you'll see what, something phantasmagoric. And you'll be surprised about what they mean by the word phantasmagoric. So Philippe Starck has revealed plans to build a 14-story hotel in the French city of Metz with an 18th century style house on the roof. The French designer was commissioned to design the habitable, surreal and poetic work of art by, in quotation marks, by the Hilton Group to operate under the Curio Collection brand. Here it is. It's a project, but it's possible that it will be built, or it was already built. I couldn't find pictures with it already built, but I found this project. And this is Philippe Starck, is planning this, so-called traditional house on top of so-called modern building. It's kitsch, actually. It's not convincing. It's yes, it's a curiosity. It catches the eye, but is this serious architecture? I wouldn't say so. No, it's capricious thing, and being that he is who he is, he's encouraged to go ahead. Yeah, maybe it's interesting to live there, particularly at the top. Of course, all the people here would hate the ones living at the top. Now, this might be that, no, this is a hotel, and I guess the top would rent for a huge amount of money. It's replacing the penthouse. So, here, these are for the mortals, and this is for the gods. One god or two gods or a few, but only a few, not more than a few. I really think these people would hate the people at the top. They feel so pedestrian, so common, as opposed to the distinctive top. Now, Villa M in Paris, this was a false alarm. When I saw it, I said, let me include it in the presentation, but apparently it was not built by him. But on some sites, he is associated with a Brazilian French office that built a building, but I also found information where only the Brazilian architects are mentioned without Philippe Starck. So I imagine he didn't contribute to this building. I left the image because, like an accident, maybe amusing, maybe, anyway, not very significant. But this is not apparently by Philippe Starck. Sorry. Villa M in Paris is actually an apartment building built by Triptych. I think it's called the name of the Brazilian French architecture office, and they made a big fuss about how innovative it is. I saw some pleasant pictures where the windows are totally covered by the green. So this is the fashion today, to cover the building completely with green, with vegetation, in order to be able to breathe some better air. But again, I know Philippe Starck is a rather opportunistic architect and designer, but I don't think he's one of the authors of this building. And now we are really at the very end of the presentation, this short presentation, and we see him with his wife. We already saw a picture with both, and I am tempted to comment in rather actually sad terms, because this reminds me actually of the poet in Romania who started a restaurant business, and now he cooks at the TV. The Romanians here understand about whom I'm talking. And I see kind of the same thing, what success makes of a man, I mean, I look at this picture and what do I see? The boredom of success, the boredom of abundance. What is he reading? Science V, the Big Bang. But he obviously has the face of a bored man. Yes, spoiled, but bored. What about her? I don't know what she's reading. Kafka? I find it ridiculous. You read Kafka here with the media in front of you, taking pictures of you. It's pathetic, and I'm not jealous. It is pathetic. Of course, there are similar pictures with Charlie Chaplin and his much younger wife and a myriad of kids, all in a strange positioning related to their height. Doctor picture. This is doctor too, and I feel rather sad for Philippe Starck. I think he has the intelligence and position in society and in life to avoid, but I guess he remains in the public eye with such, I would say, regrettable and rather cheap strategies. Yes, if he was here, after I would wish him happy birthday, I would tell him that I feel sorry for him, because he didn't have to do this bonanza thing, and it is a bonanza thing. And both are actually, anyway, but I will end the presentation, I think, with this last work, the Taschen Bookstore in Hollywood. Of course, he works now for those who are not at all democratically oriented. We are talking about Hollywood, about the red carpet, about the actors paid with giant salaries, by the film industry, which comments first on how much money a movie made at the box office. This is the first information we read about movies made by the film industry or movie industry, the film industry in Hollywood. And look at this bookstore by this well-known, publisher. It's a banal building. It's a banal. It saddens me. It saddens me just like the picture that we just saw with the two of them laying there, in that happy-go-lucky picture. What do we see here? I would never buy a book from such a store. Never. No, I like old second-hand bookstores with dust, old books, in disarray, sometimes with a morose owner of the store, but who read many books and knows many things. This is commerce. This has nothing to do with culture. It's so sad. This is not a bookstore. In fact, it should have been written, this is not a bookstore, just as, Magritte wrote, this is not a pipe, or Bernard Tschumi wrote, this is not red, this is not a color, or this is not red when it was obviously red. This is not a bookstore. It's a simulacrum. It's not about culture. It's not about learning. It's about selling. And yeah, all those so-called artistic ad hoc interventions on the top are just misleading. Yeah, you could say, how nice, how interesting, how artsy. This is indeed so-called artsy, but I would not think that any serious artist would like to be considered his or her work artsy, or himself or herself. No way. Would you say Vincent van Gogh was artsy, or his paintings are artsy? No, this might be artsy, but it's not art. Tashkent, okay. They essentially, they make, it's high production, and, I guess they sell well, but it's a sad store. And look at the tower in the middle of the building. It's whimsical, yes. You see there written farmer's market. In a way, it is a farmer's market. In a way, yes. Didn't I say this is not a bookstore? Well, this, what's written with big letters there, seems to say the same thing, although inside you find only books. Maybe a book like Learning from Las Vegas would have appreciated it. I don't. And here he is. I really end the presentation now. Again, this is a book published by Taschen, his client. He built about 6 stores for this publisher. What do we see here? A man who is making fun. I'm sure he's aware that it's a play. I'm sure he's aware that this catches the eye. But it's also something sad here, I think. It is, I almost feel like saying, we are laughing in order not to cry. What is the reason for crying? Maybe one of the reasons for crying is exactly the picture we are looking at, Did Palladio need to position or posture himself in this way? No. It's our age, an age of scandals. We thrive on scandals. You open any media, the first thing you read is about a new scandal. And to this world, Philippe Starck adapted himself very well. But I think he adapted himself very well, paying a price. And I think the price paid was shown in that regrettable picture, in my opinion, with him and his wife laying on that outdoors bed, reading whatever they were reading. And this is the last picture of the presentation. Starck, Dibujos Secretos. It's with secret drawings, Starck, secret drawings. But look at his expression. What does this image tell us? Is he in some kind of a pain, like the pain of the one who screams in the famous artwork by Edward Munch, the scream? No, it's mimicked. Is it born from boredom? That might be the case. Or is it born from a desire to, entertain the scandal that animates our world beyond measure? That might be it. But I really find it sad, actually. Is it an invention? Well, if it is, it's not just his. Many people in our time do exactly this. They make fool of themselves in order to catch the eye of others. And That's why, in my opinion, many so-called cultural things of the present are rather superficial. But let's wish him happy birthday. It is his birthday today, and let's wish him happy birthday. Thank you.